Another classic piece of cinema from 1967, starring no less than a giant spider, 3 giant monster praying mantises, Godzilla, and the son of Godzilla, 1967, Son of Godzilla. I am in no fashion trying to downplay the input and the performance of the Japanese actors whose voices are dubbed over for this English version of the movie, but they were not going to be benefited or honored in any sense by my attempt to remember or pronounce their names. You can check it out. This film is exactly what you'd expect it to be. It is Godzilla. It is Son of Godzilla. Monster Island, with a team of Japanese researchers working on a climate control weapon, well, a climate control device that they fear could be used as a weapon, that they plan to use to change the climate around the world, to be able to grow food, the increase of food production for a planet that is dangerously becoming overpopulated. Sort of a typical 60s, 70s conspiracy theory, this idea that the world was going to quickly be overpopulated, which of course we know now is kind of foolish, but it was the concern that was on the radar right up there with the new ice age rather than global warming, wink, wink. And this is what the Japanese team is researching on the island. It is Monster Island. I don't think they actually used that name, but it would be used later. The island where there's these giant creatures seem to form. No real explanation is really given in this film for why there's so many giant monsters produced on the island. Although we do find out there's some unique native plant life, including something they call a form of spinach that grows wild there. And I'm thinking Popeye and his muscles, that maybe the consumption of this stuff is causing giant animals to mutate. But we meet a giant spider. There are 3 giant praying mantises. The giant mantises are detecting a signal coming from a mountaintop. They attack this mountaintop, they tear it open, and they expose an egg. And of course, it turns out that it hatches a Godzilla baby. No mention of where the mother is, or how long ago the egg was laid, or how long it had to be incubated in the mountain. The creature seems to grow relatively quickly, but there's some long, elaborate scenes with people running puppets and people inside Godzilla suits where the baby hatches, is attacked by the manti, and Godzilla comes to the rescue. There's some attempts at making some cute familial scenes where Godzilla is teaching baby Godzilla how to be a Godzilla, how to roar, and how to shoot flaming chemical out of its mouth, and it's fun. Ultimately, they discover that they can escape the island. Our Japanese research team has a ship coming to rescue them, and in the midst of all this danger of Godzilla versus the giant, them versus the giant spider, and Godzilla versus the spider and the manti, and using the climate change device to freeze the island, to reduce the temperature, to destroy the giant bugs, essentially the giant arachnid and the giant mantises, and we are left with the explanation that Godzilla and his baby will not die, but because of the increase in temperature, or the decrease in temperature, the cold, the snow, they will hibernate and they will still be there, which sets you up, of course, for the infinite number of sequels when it thaws out, and now Godzilla and Son of Godzilla can awaken from their hibernation and go on another rampage. It's sort of interesting for me. I don't remember this film exactly, but when I was very young in the 70s, there was always the daytime creature feature. The UHF channels would always have, out of Detroit, things like the Godzilla. I remember the image of the baby Godzilla and the screeching. I'm sure I saw that on the commercial, at least, for the creature feature regular presentation in the 70s, when all of these Japanese dubbed films were repackaged and sent over and broadcast on television, and they weren't meant to be taken too seriously. And yet you've got to admire when Godzilla goes on a rampage through the camp. It's clearly miniatures and there's a dude in a suit, but the efforts they undertook with practical effects to make that seem real, to be able to depict that in miniatures, that still captures other than the obvious fact that it looks like those things are too light, they don't collapse correctly. It kind of gives away that it's a dude in a suit and they're miniatures. It still has much more of a practical realism than anything generated by CGI. To know that even though the logs that built the building are this big, watching them collapse, you're actually seeing something collapse. You have to admire the effort they put into it and the attempts they made at making these real science fiction-y aspects to these creature features and putting the dude in a suit and being willing to put it out there and produce it. It's fun and entertaining. I watched it because it was included in YouTube Premium. Came up, I have the Premium, so no commercials. So it's fun, it's out there, check it out. It's not going to win any awards, but it's definitely something entertaining. Son of Godzilla.